There you go, that's it. So, has anyone heard of Open Gateway? No. We've got some work to do. So Open Gateway, what is it? So we broke cover. We've been doing this for about 18 months. This is our third time at trying to do network APIs. We started off, I think it was about 10 years ago, we did one API, then we did Mobile Connect, and now we're doing Open Gateway. And this is far bigger than anything that's happened before. So Open Gateway, it's around getting all the operators together and to produce a standard set of APIs. Now, if you start thinking about your development, your deliverables, you go onto AWS, you go onto Azure, you develop something, you put it up, and then it's available to everybody. But if you want to then control the network, who does the customer belong to? Where are they? Do I need to have contracts with each of the different operators? Do I need to have T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T? Well, that's just the States. Then there's also, if you think about Europe, there's 90 operators in Europe. So if you want to do something in Europe, you're going to have 90 different APIs and different ways of connecting with the European operators. And that doesn't work. So what we did was we got together and we said, right, we need to have a common way of doing things. So we established with some of the other operators, CAMARA, and that was in partnership with the Linux Foundation. And we worked with them, and we were working on developer-centric network APIs, so developer-centric service APIs. So nice and easy ways of doing it. Say, if I want to know your location, I just give you a phone number and find your location. If I'm trying to do a number verify, so a lot of the websites we use or the applications we use, you put in your number, and then you get an SMS. Then you've got to type the SMS, or sometimes you copy it, and sometimes it remembers it, and sometimes it doesn't. Well, you shouldn't really have to do that. You should be able to do that in the back end and just verify this person is this number, and it all works. So we have the same way of doing things. So rather than every other time, we've had slightly different ways of doing it, but nearly the same. This is actually the same. So same common northbound APIs. And then what you also do is you go east and west. So we use federation. We use aggregation partners like Infobip to make sure that if you want to get to each of the customers in a single geography, in a continent, in a country, then you just have to go through one point of connection. So you have one contract with one point of connection, and that's the way you go in, get in. And you don't care who owns the customer. You don't need to care, you don't have to care. So we're doing this. So we've then got TM Forum. So GSMA, we do a telco finder, which means that you don't need to worry where the customer is and who owns the customer. You have the CAMARA service APIs, common sets of APIs, northbound. So it's always the same. You don't have to change anything, just change the login details if you change provider. And then TM Forum, we do the operate APIs. These are the APIs more around the way the operators use and create the APIs. So it's enabling a global catalog. It's onboarding a developer, things like that. And the last thing is what we're doing is specification by doing code, not documentation. Now, telcos and standardization bodies, and GSMA is a quasi-standardization body. We love doing documentation. We love documentation. But it takes us forever to do it. So don't do that. Do it by code. And the other thing is, if I do documentation, I interpret it one way, and you interpret it another, and you interpret it another. So it never works. So we got the operators together. We've now got 239 network operators, and that's around 65% of the mobile connections. And they're all together, and they've all signed up to deliver and to actually make these things real in the market. Now, we're now starting to look at our aggregation partners. So we speak to Google, we speak to AWS, we speak to Infobip, Ericsson, Microsoft. So we start to make sure that whole ecosystem's there, and we need the ecosystem to be able to do this. The portfolio, the things you can do. So as far as networks go, we know a lot of things around your handset. We know where you are, but we're also trusted as well. So a lot of the time, we know a lot of things about our customers. And then we've also got the network to think about. Now, it's already probably second nature to look at where you deploy things and making that fast and making sure you're at the edge. But we all can also do that, and we can also tune the network to whatever the use case is that you're trying to do. So things like first responders come into an incident, there's lots of people, lots of network congestion. Well, let's make sure we can give them more bandwidth so the first responders can actually use the mobile network at that time, and they don't suffer the same issues. Now, the resources we've got available is a number. First of all, it's probably this one. So this is on our website, and it's the networks that have gone live with the APIs, and the fact we've certified them as well. So we run a certification program to make sure that we can certify and make sure that their APIs are written exactly the same. They haven't changed anything. And then we also look at what they've got live. So at the moment, this is a static website. We'll be redoing it and generating it based on the product catalog. So we'll be able to have information on here and have a global product catalog. And there I've just pulled out the USA, AT&T and Verizon. You've also got links to their developer portals. So you can start off on this website, go to the developer portals of the people you're interested in, and start working with them and sign up with them and do everything you normally do. So that's the first thing at the moment. We've got 22 networks, I think, are on there at the moment. Number of APIs on each. And some of those are multiple operators in the one geography, so in one country. We've got an example later on. So that's the first one. The second one is CAMARA itself, he says. Yes, there you go. So within CAMARA, there's two parts of CAMARA, two resources there, really. There's CAMARAproject.org, and they've also got a GitHub called CAMARA Project, funnily enough. Now, on the CAMARAproject.org, you'll see lots of use cases, so lots of versions of how and why the different APIs have been used, demonstrations, and work that people have done, edge stuff, early access stuff, all sorts of things are on that. So different early access programs. And on the right-hand side, we've got the CAMARA Project GitHub itself, so these are the APIs. And this is probably a plea from me and everyone else to you. So at the moment, the APIs developed in there are the ones that the network operators think are useful. What we really need, what we've really got to have, is the ones that you think are useful. I want to know what you want and how you want that to work and how you want that to function. So at the moment, we've done what we think is useful, but we need to know what do you think is useful. So exactly what it is and how do you want to use it. Do you want geofencing? What sort of way do you want to describe that for fencing? So different ways of doing that. So we'd like you to join the CAMARA project, have a look at that, help develop those APIs, to help work on them, put the requirements in and say, what we need is an API that will do this. So that's the stuff that I want. So that's probably the two main sources of information we've got at the moment. And then the other part is obviously the developer portal. So each of the operators will have their own developer portal. They're all going to be different. GSMA will start looking at doing a global catalog and then like a global portal. So we'll do some raw versions of the APIs. So we'll be working on that. So next thing. So here's a demonstration that we had running at MWC in Barcelona in February this year. This is some work which went on. There's no music, so we don't have to worry about it. The Brazilian operators came together and looked at 3 telco APIs, looking at anti-fraud. That's a big case at the moment. Number verify, so we don't need an SMS. SIM swap, and didn't see what the last one was. So SIM swap is an anti-fraud. When someone goes in, they take your SIM, so when you do a large transaction, the hacker would end up getting the text message that's got the code on it. So we try to stop that. You have a SIM swap, and you'd find out when was the last time that SIM was swapped. All you've got to do is provide a number, and it'll check and say, well, the last time that was swapped was 3 years ago, in which case it's probably you. If it was swapped an hour ago, it's probably not you. So various things, iTower was one of them, so looking at cyber fraud, and again, using SIM swap to detect that spoofing attempt. So SIM swap is SIM spoofing is a big problem, so it's a way of doing it, and the banks look at the indicators and say, yes, I need to check the SIM swap on that, and the SIM swap comes back dodgy, then they know they're going to go and look at it. And that's the end of that one. So the last thing is probably a bit of a plug. So we operate MWC, Mobile World Congress. There's 3 of them. There's 3 big ones. The big one's in Barcelona. And that one, there's about 100,000 people go to that one. Huge trade show in Barcelona, and that runs in February. There's one in Shanghai. We're run it in July. So Shanghai runs in July, and then the last one is Vegas. And that one is the 8th of October. 8th of October this year. We'll be in Las Vegas, and we'll be running a DevCon as part of that. So there will be a DevCon running, and there'll probably be a hackathon running as well. So if you're interested, then please reach out. Please get in touch. You can register up on the website to come to Las Vegas for that, and it should be really good. And that's it. That's me done. And I've got 3 minutes left, which means...
So we do have time for questions, so before we move on to the next session. So does anybody have any questions for our speaker, Mark, today? We have one in the back.
Okay, one in the back.
Yeah, when one of the telecoms introduces like a new feature to their API, do you get a chance to test that with your system before they push it to product? Or does a change happen and then you have to react and fix things? Like with every single telecom, they all have so many different APIs and add features, right?
They do have, this is the issue, is they all have different APIs. So there's no central God box. You go to whoever your aggregator is, but they'll have the same API. Now, we used to make an absolute nightmare for the aggregators because they used to go, right, well, it's for this company, this company, this company, and make sure it's all different. And do the translation box in the middle. This tries to make that a lot easier. So they've all got the same API, a single API. And single, the same way of doing authentication as well. So at the moment, we have got different authentication methods, but that is gradually being standardized as well. So there's one authentication method, one way of doing it, all the privacy is built in, consent is built in. So all that stuff is already handled as far as the telco operator is concerned. And it goes direct to the telco. It doesn't go by a GSMA. There's no great central box. It's all, whoever you choose that you're going to partner with, that's where it's going to go. Does that answer the question?
Any other questions?
Deathly silence. They're all asleep.
Well, Mark, we're so grateful for your expertise
welcome.
and what you're bringing to improve connectivity, consistency, and scale. You going to be around the event for a little longer if folks have questions?
I'll be around today and tomorrow and
Fantastic.
hanging around. If anyone sees me and wants to ask about it, then please do.
Awesome. Let's give
Thank
our speaker a round of applause.